We are a month and a half into the NFL season, and week 7 is going to be on the way here shortly. There is 15 games to go over, but before you do, I want to quickly say if you are new, subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Leave a like, let me know your thoughts down below. Now let's get right into it. We kick things off with Thursday Night Football and AFC North clash as the Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers are 5.5-point favorites. It is Aaron Rodgers. It is Joe Flacco. This is the third meeting between the two quarterbacks. And in those previous two meetings, Aaron Rodgers is 2-0, but these are both on completely different teams from when those two meetings did happen. So this is going to be an interesting one. The Steelers are a team that are playing really well. Their defense is playing really, really well, and their offense is playing in a good spot to where they're complementing the defense well. The Bengals are kind of entering a desperation mode. And when Joe Burrow got hurt, I entered that whole spiel with the whole fact that I felt like the Bengals needed to go 5-7 at least due to assuming 12 weeks that Burrow would in theory be out for, as he's planned to miss 3 months. So they're not sitting really great right now. Their defense is not playing well. Their offense is really bad. This feels almost like a must win. I don't think they'll get it done, though. I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this game. The Steelers are just a very more complete team right now, and that Joe Burrow injury has really hurt the Bengals more than I thought it was going to. And it's been a month of him being out, and the Bengals are not looking like a team pretty much at all. Yeah, I do have the Steelers winning this one. Another game goes international as the Los Angeles Rams are 3-point favorites across the pond against the Jacksonville Jaguars over in London once again. And both teams have pretty good histories while playing in London. Jacksonville mainly, there's all those reports while they were in their very, very bad states of the late 2010s, early 2020s, that Jacksonville might be a team to look towards relocating to London. Obviously, that didn't happen, and they've kind of turned things around. The Rams, they've played multiple games over across the pond as well, and they're also a really good team this season. Both teams are fighting for first place in their respective divisions. I do really like the Rams as a whole. I think their defense is a great defense, and after how Seattle played Jacksonville, I could see a similar outcome in terms of Trevor Lawrence getting pressured a lot and the Rams defense making things tough for Jacksonville. But the biggest thing is Puka Nacua is not expected to play in this game, and that's going to massively hurt this Rams offense. So I do have the Jaguars winning this one. I think they'll bounce back from that loss to Seattle. And also part of it is Jacksonville is pretty much London's team at this point. It's been that way for a decade plus at this point. So I think they do have a little bit of a home field advantage, despite this being neutral site. So I have the Jaguars winning. Back in the States, the New Orleans Saints are traveling to the Chicago Bears this week. 5.5-point favorites is Chicago. The Bears are coming off of that great win against the Commanders on Monday Night Football, so it is going to be a short week for them, but I'm not sure how much is really going to matter. Ben Johnson and this offense has really found a groove after starting the season pretty rough, and I think that that's a great sign for the future of Chicago. This was really a great test of a season all around, and so far they are passing that test. Defense is also playing pretty well alongside of it. They forced 3 turnovers against the Commanders last week, and they're going against a Saints team that has made a lot of teams look really good this season. But at the same time, I've played quite a few close games. They're 1-5, but it kind of doesn't feel that way when you watch them play, especially those first 2 weeks of the season against the Giants not long ago, and even a little bit last week against the Patriots. They have drives there that make you think that there is definitely a team in New Orleans. Even with that, I do have the Bears winning this game. They're the more complete team. For as much as I think the Saints are playing above an expectation this season, they are still 1-5. They are still a mess of a team, even though, again, they're playing up to a higher level, but it's mainly because I thought that they were going to get killed in 99% of their games this season and be 0-6 by this point, but that's not the case. So I do have the Bears winning nonetheless. The Miami Dolphins are traveling to the Cleveland Browns this week. This is another one of those alpha dog uniform games for the Browns. And the Browns are 3-point favorites in this one. And I fully understand why. Miami's defense has been a massive issue this season, especially that ground defense. And Quinshawn Judkins has been a pretty solid back since dealing with the whole out off the field stuff in the contract situation. But since actually being able to play for the Browns, he has been playing pretty well. He's going to have a great chance in this game to really hit the ground running. Both offensive lines are pretty rough for each side. Myles Garrett might be in for a great day, and this Miami offense might be in for a pretty rough day. Both teams 1-5, pretty much just a point of whoever loses is probably going to have some massive changes going on in the front office. I would not be opposed with that being Miami, but I do still have Miami winning this game. Again, still a Dolphin fan. I still would rather see them win on Sunday than actively root for them to lose every single game. Even though I do want changes in that front office, there is still plenty of talent on this roster the way they should be able to handle a team like Cleveland that is very struggling right now to find an identity and to find someone with enough talent to be a focal point of that team outside of Myles Garrett, obviously. So I do have the Dolphins winning. The New England Patriots are 7-point favorites as they head to Tennessee this week, and it's a Mike Vrabel revenge game, though he won't be going against the coach that they replaced him with, as Brian Callahan was fired during the week. Mike McCoy is going to be the interim head coach there in Tennessee, the former head coach of the Chargers. And this is going to be a pretty interesting game. The New England Patriots have really turned around what was a kind of undisciplined start to the season. They were one of the most penalized teams through 3 weeks. But since then, they've really stepped up their game and have really hit the scene running and are all of a sudden a top team in the AFC, leading the AFC East. Tennessee is going to be able to find more of their identity this week now that Callahan is out the door. But at the same time, they're more so trying to figure out who are the guys that can stay to next season to build around Cam Ward. So it's a weird season for Tennessee. I do have the Patriots winning this game, but I do think it will be closer than the 7-point line. I think Tennessee is going to have a more complete game. I think Callahan was a big reason why this Titans offense was having very rough stretches throughout the season. And I think now that he's out the door and it's Mike McCoy being the main guy calling plays, it should be a little bit better in Tennessee. Not enough to win, but still a little bit better. But the Patriots do win this game as well. The biggest point spread of the week is in Kansas City as they host the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chiefs are 11.5-point favorites in this game. And the Chiefs are coming off that great win against the Lions. The defense really played well. The offense finally found a rhythm going. Rashee Rice, I believe, is eligible to play this week. I'm not sure if he will, but his 6-week suspension is officially lifted. So if he does play in this game or whenever he does play, that's a massive piece being added to that Chiefs offense. It's just purely from an on-the-field perspective, he is a massive player for the Chiefs to get back. The Raiders are a team that have really played below expectations. They do have 2 wins on the season, but this Geno Smith-led team, this Pete Carroll coach team, they're not playing like we saw in Seattle the past few years with that parent. And I totally understand why. They just don't really have the weapons that they had in Seattle. And it's going to come to play here again. I do have the Chiefs winning this game. They're the more complete team. They are still fighting for that division. There's still plenty of time for them to make up the ground. And this would be a great win to make up that ground. So I have the Chiefs winning. The Philadelphia Eagles are 2.5-point favorites as they make the trip to the Minnesota Vikings this week. And I was going back and forth on this game. The Vikings are coming off of their bye week. They entered the bye in a pretty fine spot with Carson Wentz leading the way due to the J.J. McCarthy injury. And even with J.J. McCarthy, they were playing fine as well. So at the time of recording this, we don't know if McCarthy will play in this game. I don't think it will really matter the outcome, but it's still an interesting spot for the Vikings to be in. The Eagles need to have a bounce back game soon. They've lost their last 2. The one to Denver was at least a competitive showing, but they got blown out by the Giants last week. They've had 10 days to sit on this game. And on Sunday, I expect the Eagles to announce that they have bounced back and that they got things figured out. I do have the Eagles winning this game. I'm very curious, though, to how the offense is going to play. That's the biggest issue with this Eagles team. If the offense cannot find its groove, we might be talking after week 7 of the Eagles being a team that can't compete in the NFC anymore. But we will see. I do have the Eagles winning, so that conversation is going to be dead for the time being. But yeah, the Eagles, I think they'll bounce back just fine. The Carolina Panthers are traveling to MetLife to play the New York Jets this week, and they're only 1.5 favorites in this one. And I find that kind of laughable. The Jets are not a good team this year. It took them 6 weeks to finally force a turnover on the season, and that is a historically long time for it to take. Their offense is in a completely weird spot as a whole. I think Justin Fields definitely could have been the guy in a better situation, but that was never going to be with the Jets, and they paid him quite a bit of money for that to be the case. Meanwhile, Carolina is coming off of another great win against Carolina. They've now won 3 of their last 4, and they are looking really good. Rico Dowdle is going to be a mainstay to this offense. I don't believe that Chuba Hubbard is going to be back this week, and that might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, as because Rico Dowdle has really been playing well in the absence of Chuba Hubbard. I do have the Panthers winning this game. I don't think it's going to be relatively close. I mean, a point and a half only for Carolina after how they've played the past 2 weeks is a pretty laughably small point spread. The Jets defense at one point was a really good defense, but over the past few years, it has really taken a step back. Even with Aaron Glenn being the head coach, this is a very rough start to the season for the Jets. And I think Carolina's going to make it even rougher. Give me the Panthers to win. The New York Giants are traveling to Denver this week to play the Broncos, and the Broncos are 7-point favorites in this game. And there is one interesting storyline here that I'm not sure a lot of people are going to talk about because of just how non really like media based it is. But the Giants are coming off of 10 days rest after a win against Philly, while Denver is coming back from London in this game. So that's going to be an interesting way to see how it impacts those teams with the flight and the jet lag. Yes, Denver has had plenty of time to get back to accustomed to it, but still, it's an interesting storyline nonetheless. The same way how last week, the fact that the Browns were coming off a London game while the Steelers were coming off of a bye was an interesting storyline, and it definitely played a factor in that game. I feel like something similar could happen here. On top of Jackson Dart playing really well and Cam Scatterbu being a great back, and that Giants team really haven't found new life with those two. And Denver coming off of a pretty tough game against the Jets. They did not play well, yet they still got the win. This is going to be an interesting one. I do think the 7-point spread's a lot, but I do still think Denver will get the win. But this game is going to be a pretty close one, I do think. The Giants are a team this season that could easily make a run and potentially be a playoff team out of nowhere. So I do think that another close game here against the Broncos could go a long way towards that, but I do still think the Broncos will win. The Indianapolis Colts are traveling to SoFi Stadium as they play the Los Angeles Chargers, with the Chargers being a point and a half favorites. And it's throwback week, or technically over in Los Angeles. They're wearing their all gold uniforms for this game. They're going to have custom end zone paint. That is a little bit of a throwback inspired. So this is going to be a very fun game. And this is another great test for the Colts. This is probably their second toughest opponent so far this season, with the other being the Los Angeles Rams, which they played in Los Angeles. And that game did not go the Colts' way, but it was still a very good game that the Colts did play. And the Chargers coming off of that win against Miami, where they did play well, but it was still a close game nonetheless. And the Chargers as a whole, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. The offensive line is banged up. The running back room is incredibly banged up. And yes, the running back room did still play well against Miami last week. The Dolphins run defense is the worst in the league. The Colts are going to be able to play that run game a bit better. They're going to put more pressure on this Chargers team. I do have the Colts winning this game. And this is going to be a big statement win for the Colts if it does happen. This is going to be their real first test that they're going to pass this season. And it's going to definitely put them on a trajectory to be a really good team the rest of the way and be a team that we can talk about into February potentially as being a Super Bowl contender. But they need to get the job done here first. An NFC East clash in Jerry World is next as the Commanders are a point and a half favorites going to Dallas. Neither team have a good defense this season. The Commanders, though, is a bit better defensively, but they do still struggle against both the run and pass. The Cowboys, they're the worst defense in the entire league in terms of total yards allowed per game. So this is going to probably be a offensive slugfest, but having said that, I could also see this being a defensive clash because that's the nature of the NFL. Nonetheless, Washington's offense is a still very solid offense on the season, and I think they're going to be better than what they showed in that loss against Chicago last week. I think now that Jaden Daniels is going to be 3 weeks removed from his injury, I think he'll be playing a bit better, and his team as a whole will find a groove again. Dallas, though, they do have one of the best offenses in the league, and is going to make this a very tough game. I initially have the Commanders in this one, but as I'm recording this, I am going to make the change. I do think the Dallas Cowboys will win this game. I think that if this is an offensive clash, that the Cowboys will have the better offense and take advantage of it. And even if this is a defensive slugfest, I think that there's a better bet on the Cowboys offense to break through than there is for the Commanders offense. So give me the Dallas Cowboys. The Green Bay Packers are 6.5-point favorites as they travel to the desert of Arizona to play the Cardinals. The Packers are coming off of a pretty solid win against the Bengals last week. Not the on paper dominance of a showing that you kind of expected out of the Packers, but still a dominant showing nonetheless against a Cincy team that they should dominate. And the Arizona Cardinals, coming off of a pretty tough loss to the Colts, but they still played better than they have all season, with Jacoby Brissett leading the way. As of the time of recording this, I'm not sure the status on Kyle Murray. Part of me is going to expect that he is going to play in this game. I also don't think that either Jacoby Brissett or Kyle Murray make a big enough difference in this one to change the outcome to me. I do think that the Packers defense is going to cause a lot of troubles for this Cardinals offense. And this Packers offense is going to be able to find a rhythm pretty easily against this Cardinals team, most likely through Tucker Kraft. I do have the Packers winning this game. I think that they're going to be just fine. They get a little bit of a hiccup in that early stages against Cincy, but they eventually found their rhythm and found their groove. I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a very dominant game again. Tucker Kraft going to be a big weapon for this one. And all around, I think that the Packers will get the job done and they're going to win this game. Sunday night football, it's the Atlanta Falcons traveling to the San Francisco 49ers, with San Fran being 2.5-point favorites in this game. The biggest storyline in this one is Fred Warner is most likely going to be out for the season after the injury suffered against Tampa, and that is a massive, massive loss to this Niners defense, which is a defense that has been kind of the bright spot in terms of health this season. But now Fred Warner being out, it's going to be a lot tougher for them to make the stops that they need to. The offense, though, has still been playing well despite all the injuries. I'm not sure the status on Brock Purdy at the time of recording this, but either way, I think this offense is going to be just fine if it's Mac Jones or if it's Brock Purdy. Atlanta coming off of that great win against the Bills, holding them to 14 points and just running wild. Bijan Robinson had an incredible game, 170 yards. Drake London, the main target, had over 150 yards himself. This is an Atlanta team that has found their identity, and I'm going to pick the Falcons to win this game. I think the injury to Fred Warner is going to matter a lot more than any injury on that offensive side of the ball has mattered this season. I think we're in for a very great game from Drake London and from Bijan Robinson. Even Kyle Pitts can get involved a bit more with that middle of the field, being a little bit more open. But I do think the Falcons are going to walk into San Francisco and get the job done. The first of the Monday night doubleheader, and the NFL really needs to stop doing these at this point. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are traveling to the Detroit Lions, with the Lions being 5.5-point favorites. I was going back and forth a lot on this game. The last time these two teams played was last season in Detroit on a primetime game, and the Buccaneers walked into Detroit and got a massive big time win. The Lions this week are coming off of a very bad loss to the Chiefs. They're looking to bounce back. Tampa coming off of a really good win against the 49ers, but the issue with that is Emeka Egbuka did go down in that game and is expected to miss this one. Mike Evans is potentially going to be back, which will be a massive get to the offense. But as of this time of recording this, it doesn't look likely, but it's a possibility. So it's going to be Baker Mayfield throwing to a ton of just second team receivers. Not going to have Bucky Irvin. My initial thoughts of this game was Tampa to win, but then I looked through all of that, and now I'm picking the Detroit Lions to win this game. I think that they're going to bounce back just fine, but don't get me wrong. Baker Mayfield could 100% have an incredible game with how banged up that Lions secondary is. But I just think that the Lions offense are not going to allow a performance like they had last week to happen again, much the same way that in week 2, they played incredibly well after the week 1 loss to Green Bay. So I do have the Lions bouncing back and winning this game. And to wrap things up, the second game on Monday Night Football, the Houston Texans are traveling to the Seattle Seahawks this week. Seattle is 3.5-point favorites in this game. And Houston is a team this season that are kind of underwhelming. They're not playing up to the expectations that a lot of people had for them this season. They're kind of having to claw their way back into this divisional race, but they have been doing a pretty solid job at doing that. Seattle is a team this year that has overperformed all of my expectations. They have been playing really well. That was a very nice win against Jacksonville that they had last week. It was a very defensive focused game, but it is really good that they had a game like that, mainly so to prove it to themselves that they can win a game like that. But even then, Sam Darnold played well. JSN has been a fantastic receiver one this season for them, really stepping into that role nicely. I do have the Seahawks winning this game. I think they're the better team. I think they're the more complete team. This game being in Seattle and having a 10 p.m. Eastern time kickoff is going to play a factor into things. all around, I do like Seattle, and I do think that they'll wrap up week 7 with a nice win. There you have it, all of my thoughts for week 7 of the NFL season. I appreciate everyone stopping by and taking the time to watch. I hope to see you all next time, but if not, have yourselves a damn good one, and peace.